The six-time world champion New England Patriots.
Edelman's going to throw.
The quarterback's arm.
Let's go. Intercepted.
Oh, somehow they blew the coverage.
Oh, that's a catch.
Hello, Super Bowl. We are all Patriots. And tonight,
Patriots are Super Bowl champions. The Patriots are Super Bowl champions.
And we are back with another episode of the Pats Pack Podcast. Here we are going to be recapping the Pats Colts game from last night. We're recording this on Sunday. That should be up by Monday. I am here, Mr. Josh Fenton, with Mr. Josh Valadola. Mr. Josh Valadola, how are we doing on this fine Sunday afternoon?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Mr. Josh Fenton?
I've been better. I've been worth, I got kicked in the face at jiu-jitsu yesterday. I got chased by a dog today while I was running. I played golf in the cold,
Dude,
but
what the hell?
It could be a lot worse because you know why? Every day is a great day to be great.
It's facts.
Getting right into it here. So Colts ended up topping the Pats 27-17 was the final. The Colts ended up covering at -2.5. The under cashed at 44. Actually, it was very close because at the over-under, the final over-under came out to 45, which is actually very, very close to cashing the over. So someone's going to be very unhappy that they bet the over. I was talking about this with someone at the Friars game yesterday. They bet the over, and everyone is so on betting the over, always. But statistically, the under hits much more often. It's actually not even close.
Huh.
Fun fact, if you ever bet on sports. Anyway, getting right into it here, starting off with the team stats. We got Pats time of possession 29-38, Colts 30-22. Offensive plays, Pats actually outsnapped the Colts significantly, 65-52. Yards, Pats checked in at 365 yards. Colts checked in at 275 yards. Penalties, that's a big one we're going to have to get into at one point or another. Pats, 8 penalties for 50 yards. They had some big ones there. Colts only had 2 for 13. They were pretty disciplined on that end. Mack had 2 picks. Those were the 2 turnovers the Patriots had. Wentz also threw a pick. That was the 1 turnover the Colts had. 20 first downs for the Fast, 15 for the Colts. The Pats ran way more plays. They also had a lot more yards than the Colts did. What happened here?
Dude, we just couldn't capitalize on plays. Not finishing drives, the big pick in the red zone for Mac.
He threw a couple of bad picks, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but he didn't look his normal self. He looked very confused. He looked like he didn't look confident going through his progression from what I saw.
It's definitely the most I've ever seen him take shots. More like instead of check downs and screen passes, it was a lot of throws that were just on him.
Right. And I feel like at the end of the day, this is what we were talking about on the preview show. I said it's going to come down to who can make the least amount of mistakes. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about what Carson Wentz did here. He didn't do anything. He literally didn't do anything. He was usually does. He did what Mac usually does. He was a game manager at the end of the day, and he just handed the ball off. But he didn't make that many mistakes. Only threw that 1 pick. And, at the end of the day, sometimes that's all you need.
Turnover battle right
there. Turnover battle, a lot of the times, wins the game. Going on to the passing side of things here, we got Mac Jones checking in 26 of 45 for 299 yards and 2 tutties, 57% completion percentage, but a 54 QBR. Not the prettiest thing that you're going to see in fine China. Carson Wentz on the other side of things, 5 for 12, 57 yards and a tutty, just completing 50% of his passes, QBR of 37.2. Starting off with Wentz here, so Wentz was definitely not a problem in this one, as we talked about. Only throwing the ball 12 times, only totaling 57 yards. Do you think that was planned going into this game?
Absolutely.
I don't think you're wrong by any means at all. Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of sense that you would just lean on the run here like we were talking and try to control the clock as much as possible. And it seemed like they both tried to do that. I mean, time possession was split kind of down the middle, 50-50, which is actually pretty impressive when you think about it, considering the Pats just kept turning the ball over.
Yeah, it seemed like the Colts had kind of more time of possession, more dominant of better handle of the game than the Pats did.
I was thinking that when I was looking at this box score and I saw that the time possession was almost identical, I'm thinking there's no way that's correct. I felt like the Colts had the ball so much more. I didn't know it was going to come out. I didn't think it was going to be 50 minutes and 10, but I thought it was
going to be 4 or 5 minute difference.
At least I was thinking 35-25 or something along those lines. But hey, I guess it is what it is. Moving on to the Mac side of things, which is something I kind of want to talk about a little bit here. So, like we talked about, Mac really did not look that great in this one. He did throw the ball the second most times in his career. The most times he's ever thrown the ball is 51 in Week 3 against the Saints. As we were saying, he made a couple of really, really bad reads. He had that one right before the half, and he had that one that right to start the half. Both of those very critical because you kind of needed, especially the first one he threw. You're thinking you're definitely going to get points here. All right, you're thinking you go into half down 17-3. Not the end of the world. You say you come out and you score 7 points, or God forbid you go into the half 17-7, you come out and score again to start the half. You're looking in really, really good shape right there. But obviously, in hindsight, neither one of those happened. What happened to Mac here? Why did he end up not being the normal mac and cheese that we know and love?
He's just forcing the ball a little bit, you know what I mean? I think it was part of the Pats' game plan, and obviously the Colts did a good job of shutting down the run. Ramondre Stevenson, he got the big start right there. Didn't really do much with the ball. And with the first pick to Darius Leonard, soft zone, Darius Leonard sat in the zone, whatever, and baited him hard. You know what I mean? He made a great play on the ball.
Do you think that is Ramondre Stevenson's fault, though? He didn't do anything with that
Oh,
start?
absolutely not.
Because
look at who they have in the defensive line, side of the ball.
I wouldn't even say that. I was thinking just the fact that you're playing from behind.
That too.
Think about it. When everyone was expecting a big blow-up game, and I wouldn't say I was expecting a blow-up game, but once I saw Damian Harris was out, I was definitely expecting Ramondre to take on a little bit of a beefed-up role, I guess you could say. But when you're down 17 points, you can only run the ball so much. And, Mac did throw the ball, like I said, 45 times. So they definitely were trying to be a little bit more aggressive and up-tempo here.
Yeah, anytime you're behind, the run game kind of takes a backseat. You know what I mean? You can't really take for granted the time possession of the game.
The thing that kind of surprised me is that he wasn't used a little bit more in the passing game because he is kind of like that dual threat. He's kind of that three-down back, I guess. Obviously, Bolden's going to be sprinkled in here and there. But I also feel like for the most part, Ramondre Stevenson can handle a three-down workload.
Oh, definitely. But I think it's more just the Pats system. They've always employed a third-down running back.
Right.
Separate to the bell cow, if you will. And Brandon Bolden, who's done a great job all year, assumed the third down role.
Moving on to the rushing side of things here. So we're going to start off with the story in this one. Jonathan Taylor, 29 carries for 107 yards and a tutty. Ashton Dulin, 2 carries for 39 yards. And Carson Wentz, 8 carries for 17 yards. Almost had as many yards rushing as he did passing. Just kidding, but not really. So Jonathan Taylor, obviously, he's the story in this one here. You take away that 67-yard run, to ice the game at the very end, which the Pats really had to sell out on the run, so it's really not that big of a deal. You're essentially banking on tackling for him a loss and getting him down. He's still over 100 yards. That makes the Colts 8-0 when he goes over 100 yards.
Yep.
He's such a patient runner, man. Like, if you just watch that game, he's so patient.
Dude, that big 60-yard run. That whole right side was clogged, and who was it? Dante Hightower and McCourty, and he sat there, waited for his hole, took that cut, and housed it. And I feel like that's the perfect example for what you said about his patience as a runner.
I agree completely. It's just watching him as a football fan, you can't help but love it. Obviously, it sucks he's doing it against the Pats, but at the same time, he's so patient. You can't teach that.
Exactly,
because guys just want to go 0 to 100. Like Damian Harris, he's nowhere near that patient. It's not
he
even
doesn't
funny.
have his ball vision.
Yeah, exactly. Like that was perfect. Like absolutely 150% perfect. But as we were talking about, I thought the big thing of this one was going to be keeping Jonathan Taylor in check and under 100 yards, and that's something I really thought the Pats needed to emphasize. It didn't get done. What happened there with that one?
Nothing. I mean, really, it was just Jonathan Taylor was, he was going to eat the way he has all year. You know what I mean? And to say that the Pats, confidently saying that the Pats could stop him from getting a buck, you know what I mean? That's optimistic. Besides that 60-yard run, he ran for 100. I want to say the Colts as a team ran for 100 at the half. You know what I mean? So I would have liked to seen the Pats kind of hold them back from running that much.
Right.
But, they did their thing. They ran it right down our throat.
What do you think? What do you make of the Colts going forward here?
This is a big one for them. You know what I mean?
Now they've won 8 of their last 11.
And now they're in the wild card position. So I think you can definitely ride that momentum. They got great corners, Xavier Rhodes and Kenny Moore. They're a good team.
You think they can compete for the division?
Oh, definitely. you could say a lot of it relies on Carson Wentz. He didn't do much this game, but he did enough. He only turned the ball over one time. You know what I
Right.
mean? And if you can win a game like this against a pretty good, the Pats are a playoff team. If you can win with a game like this with the way Wentz performed, I'm pretty confident as a Colts, if you're a Colts fan, that this team can go, they can win some games, especially in the playoffs.
Right. After those first 3 games, the Colts, like I just said, have won 8 of their last 11. They're only getting better here. Don't be surprised if they make a run. Going on to the Pats rushing side of things, so this is honestly probably going to be pretty short and pretty sweet. We got Ramondre Stevenson, 10 carries for 36 yards. Very, very disappointing. Definitely not the game a lot of people thought that he was going to have. Fantasy managers are disappointed, that is to say the least. Brandon Bolden, 4 carries, 3 yards. That is all I have, really. That's of any sort of relevance on the rushing side. Pats abandoned the run early here, like we talked about. They haven't done that all year. You think it's because they just got behind early, or do you think that was in the game plan?
Absolutely, and the linemen did not come
That is true.
ready to play.
Anything else you want to add there? Are we good to move on to the receiving portion?
Oh, let's move on, brother.
That's what I thought. Happy to hear that. Moving on to the receiving, we will start with the Pats on this end. We got Hunter Henry, the new father, 8 targets, 6 catches, 77 yards and 2 tutties. N'Keal Harris, 2 catches, 52 yards on 5 targets. Kendrick Bourne, 3 catches on 3 targets, 44 yards. Jacoby Myers, 6 catches on 12 targets. Wow, he was really padding that up there for 44 yards. Brandon Bolden, 3 catches on 5 targets for 41 yards. Nelson Aguilar, 4 catches on 6 targets for 34 yards. Ramondre Stevenson, again, very disappointing. 1 catch, 1 target, 4 yards. And Jonnu Smith, again, another disappointing performance here because he is, for some reason, a forever blocking tight end.
Dude,
One
every
catch.
game, sorry, but like every game he has a big play and it gets called back.
I noticed
Every
that.
game, bro.
Jonnu Smith, 1 catch on 3 targets for 4 yards. What are you taking away from the Patriots passing game here?
Was a little disappointed. I guess really just that one play, Jacoby Myers on the 3rd down. Perfect pass, like absolute dime by Mac Jones, and he drops it. And he's like, the go-to guy. Kendrick Bourne, he was there, reliable. Jonnu Smith, obviously always a little disappointed. The big takeaways on the receiving side, I would say, was Hunter Henry. He's definitely evolved into Mac Jones's favorite and probably most reliable target. And then down the stretch, I would say Aguilar made some big key catches.
Aguilar did lead this game, unsure of what his status will be going forward for next week. But Hunter Henry, the tight end role, that's just something those rookie quarterbacks, they really rely on. They love those tight ends. They love those checkdowns. Obviously, Hunter was the story in this one for the passing game. As for that catch by Jacoby, that's a really tough catch.
Oh, absolutely.
But at the same time, it's a catch you got to make.
Yep.
At the same time. I feel like that Pats got a little unlucky here at the end of the day. I feel like Mac made a couple of bad reads. The block punt didn't help. But the thing is, you're still sitting in the game. Like the game, although the score showed that it was a little out of control, I felt like the game was never
out of reach.
Yeah, out of reach. I felt like obviously you can make the argument that they just ran out of time, but I think by the end of the game, if there was 3 or 4 more minutes left on that clock, then I think we're singing a different tune. And obviously you can make that case for a lot of games, a lot of teams, but I feel like in this one, this definitely applies here.
You could even go back to that penalty that Brandon King had on the missed field goal that gave him another chance, things like that.
Even that, you take that away, that changes everything. Like, that changes a lot of things. Absolutely. Because then they don't have to sell out on the run necessarily. You do, but you don't. You have a lot more options there. Going on to the Colts receiving side of things, and not too much to take away from in this one because obviously Carson Wentz only threw the ball 12 times. Zach Pascal, 2 targets, a catch, 23 yards. T.Y. Hilton, 1 target, 1 catch, 19 yards. Naheem Hines, 1 catch on 2 targets for 8 yards and a tutty. And Michael Pittman Jr., 1 catch on 5 targets for 7 yards. Michael Pittman Jr. was ejected in this one with Kyle Duggar. What happened? What happened there?
Oh, you got a little pissed that, Kyle Duggar had a nice little chip block on him. And then, supposedly Kyle Van Noy pushed Pittman into Duggar. I didn't really see a clip of that, but it just, to me, off rip, it looked like Pittman went at Duggar and, Duggar wasn't taking it.
Duggar did not take it. I saw
ripped his helmet right off.
Duggar really had his forearm driven into Pittman's neck. It seemed like really, it didn't seem the happiest of people.
I haven't seen that heated in a while.
Anything you want to take away from the Colts passing game here?
You mean how non-existent it was?
Like we were talking about on the previous show, there's not a lot going on here at all because Carson Wentz doesn't have a lot to throw to. Obviously, T.Y. Hilton hasn't been the most reliable guy in the sense of being in the lineup. Michael Pittman Jr. is the story here, but he's more of a deep ball threat. I mean, Zach Pascal, he's kind of like, a glorified practice squad guy.
Like you said, Wentz didn't really throw the ball that much, but it felt like every time he threw the ball, they made some big catches down the line.
He only completed 5 passes.
I know. Like, shocking.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on to the defensive side of things here before we go to the keys of this game. We start to wrap up. Adrian Phillips, who we didn't even know if he was going to play, led the team with 7 tackles. Devin McCourty's 6 tackles and a pick. Kyle Van Noy had 6 tackles. Devon Godchuk, Matt Judon, Kyle Duggar, and Jamie Collins all had 5 tackles. And Duptis Wise had 2 tackles and a sack. So, on the Patriots' defensive side of the ball, I feel like this wasn't horrendous, I guess you can say. It wasn't pretty by any means.
They definitely strapped down in the second half.
I felt like a lot of this was, we're going to throw out that touchdown at the end because you're selling out on the run. You need the ball back. Like, your back's against the wall at that point. So you take that away, 20 points. You take away the block punt. That's obviously not your fault. Mm-hmm. So you do that, and you only give up 10 points. And 3 of those was when Mac threw an interception to start the half on your own 30-yard line.
Yeah.
So they gave up 7 points. I feel like from a points perspective, not too bad of a job here. Obviously, there's definitely some holes. There's definitely some things that they're taking away from this that they're definitely going to need to work on in practice this week. But at the end of the day, I don't think this was as bad of a performance as the typical Patriot fan is going to make it out to be.
Absolutely agree.
All right. Anything else you want to take away from that? Or go on to the Colts side of the ball?
I guess the only thing I'd really like to add is Jamie Collins filling in for Bentley with the ankle injury.
Right.
Shades of old Jamie Collins just making plays when he was in his first tenure with the Patriots.
It's so funny because Jamie Collins, I remember when he played for the Pats the first time, he was a god.
What do you think of, like, what's the one play that you think of when you think of Jamie Collins, like, prime? For me, it's jumping over the line against the Seahawks.
That's insane athleticism, to say the least.
Right. He almost had the pick 6 this game.
That's something we're going to talk about in a second. That could have definitely changed the game.
Definitely.
So some things to take away, some things to work on the defensive side of the ball here. But at the end of the day, wasn't the worst defensive performance we'll probably see this week across the NFL.
Definitely agree.
Moving on to the Colts side of things, we got Darius Leonard 10 tackles and a pick. Kari Willis 9 tackles. Isaiah Rodgers and Kenny Moore both had 6 tackles. Bobby Okereke had 3 tackles and a pick, and then DeForest Buckner had 4 tackles and a sack. Colts defense ultimately I feel like played pretty well here. I feel like they were very, very prepared. Definitely Frank Wright had them ready coming out of that bye week. Any thoughts you want to take away here on what they did differently that really slowed Mac down, or how they were really able to kind of control this game, I guess you could say?
They really kind of made the game one-dimensional. They made it so they put the game in Mac Jones's hand, and they forced him into tight throws and just making quick decisions and such. One thing I think I said the last podcast was, not that who the hell is Bob Okereke, but he was talking about how they were going to throw the kitchen sink at him, and he made that big pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Darius Leonard had a big game. They just did a great job of stopping the run, and I think they were number 1 in the league in terms of forcing turnovers. Pick that right back up.
Yep, you got that right. All right, so to wrap up here, some miscellaneous notes here. First note I've got is 4th and goal from the 7 with 9 minutes left. Bill elected to kick a field goal. Now, what would you have done? But keep this in mind. So, statistics show the Pats had a 9.5% chance of winning if they had gone for it there. Not if they had a score, but if they had gone for it, a 9.5% chance. If you kick the field goal there, you got a 5.8% chance of winning. What would you have done in that situation? And obviously it sucks because you had that false start that pushed it back 5 yards. If it's 4th and goal from the 2, I would imagine Bill's going to go for it there, but he did not. He didn't have that opportunity.
See, it's really hard to always, or to even question Bill Belichick's kind of moves or his decision making, because I did agree with what he did. You know what I mean? Even with not taking the onside kick, I guess if there was something that I would maybe do differently, possibly go for it on 4th down to get that touchdown, and you know what I mean. They would be inside the 10. You know what I mean? So it'd be tough for the Colts to kind of move the ball theoretically, but other than that, I don't think I would have made a different decision.
I really thought about this. I really did not hate the decision to kick the field
No, me
goal there.
neither.
I mean,
You get points.
Statistically, yeah, maybe you have a better chance of winning if you had to go on for it. But I don't know. I really just did not hate that decision, and I thought he was going to kick it at the end of the day. Really did not surprise me. I really don't hate it. I mean, obviously in hindsight they lost, so maybe I'd like to see them had to go for it. But
It always makes you think.
yeah, but I don't know. In that time, I really can't hate on that decision by any means at all, especially because Mac really was not playing that well. He didn't show you any signs of, coach, I can get this done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, at least the one thing I do want to take away, I guess, with the game is, yeah, he did look like a rookie, but when it came time to, like, sack up, he didn't give up. He definitely showed some resilience.
Interesting you say that, because that's my next point we're getting into. Mac Jones shows he is still a rookie. What do you take away from Mac here for the rest of the season and going into the playoffs?
That he's got the balls. You know what I mean? He's not afraid to. I guess, like, he doesn't let the past or his mistakes dictate the rest of the game. He's definitely willing to shake it off. Strap up and take the next drive. You know what I mean?
I agree with that completely. And yeah, he showed he's still a rookie, but he is still a rookie.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like when you're a freshman in high school. Like, oh, he's just a freshman. Yeah, he is a freshman. You know what I mean?
This is his first time in the NFL.
Right. At the end of the day, like, yeah, he showed he's still a rookie, but he is a rookie. And I think showing a little bit of his resilience right there. I mean, down 17-0 on the road against the Colts, a lot of guys would have folded. And I feel like that's very fair to say. And yeah, obviously Mac did not pull out the win, but at the same time, he also made it interesting. And it wasn't a game you necessarily wanted to turn off because, Jamie Collins picks that ball off, or they kick it, they end up going onside and they recover it. Like, that game's much closer to being super, super interesting than you probably think.
Oh, definitely once that fight happened, I feel like the momentum of the game kind of shifted a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, those big turnovers, in the middle of the game, it made it a ball game instead of could have been a huge blowout, honestly.
Yeah, because 17 can turn into, 24, 31 fast. Like, and Mac was able to, I mean, obviously the defense, again, played a lot better than it's going to get credit for, but at the end of the day, Mac did, put some points on the board and make that game interesting for fans to keep on keeping on, if you know what I mean. Last thing I want to take away from him here, man, there was a lot of big mental errors in this one. Oh my God,
dude,
like,
on all phases of the
we
game.
got the defensive offsides that you mentioned that gave the Colts another chance after they missed that field goal. You got the block punt. You got the unsportsmanlike in the fight with Duggar. You got the false start that went on Owenu that moved the ball back to the 7-yard line. You got the Jamie Collins dropped interception. Then you just got some weird shit going on, man. Like, you got Isaiah Wynn deciding to channel his inner Aaron Donald and just decide to tackle Ramondre Stevenson in the backfield.
Fundamentals, bro.
Like, that's what
These are things that, like, you literally teach your lineman not to do. He just gave up on that. I think Jonnu Smith was supposed to come in with a chip block. He ran straight back, and like you said, he literally, like, almost tackled Ramondre Stevenson.
Like, when you're like 10 years old and the center decides they want to play point guard at practice, that's what this was like. Isaiah Wynn decided he wanted to play defensive lineman, except this was on a national stage on primetime TV.
Dude, I've been hating on Isaiah Wynn all year, and he's had stretches where he's played some pretty good ball, but, last night didn't help his case. Even Owenu, dude. I don't know what happened. I don't think he really got hurt, but I think those major penalties, like, once you, like, piss off Bill, I mean, running back wise, if you fumble the ball, he benches you. And I think it was just those bonehead plays. I think he played like 6% of the snaps, and Ted Karras actually took his place.
It's also kind of weird because they've got that weird rotation.
Oh, yeah.
From time to time, so that's just, like, kind of hard probably mentally for players.
Yeah, a lot of those linemen are very versatile and move around.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like you said, a lot of different, like, position changes.
Anyway, what are you taking away from all this chaos here that went on? Because this was just a mess all around. Like,
it's not your typical Patriots game. I don't really want to blame it on the bye week, but I think that kind of, like, maybe they relaxed it a little bit. Maybe didn't take the Colts as seriously, but those are maybes. Theoretical things. The big thing is they just came out slow. I think they just didn't come out ready. Not as motivated, or maybe not as juiced up for the game. And, you know, you saw it. They came out slow, and it really took them to, like, maybe late second half to, like, turn it up.
I don't think it necessarily helps you that, you know, before the bye week, you go into Buffalo, you get a big win in a hostile environment, you get the
Huge
number one
one, I
seed, you take down, like, number one seed, AFC East first place, and then, you know, you bye week, and you're like, oh, we're playing the Colts. Like, and I think most people wrote off the Colts, and I was saying, I don't know, I would not write that team off. Like, the majority of people I spoke to were not concerned about the Colts at all, which I did not agree with.
I have a buddy that really didn't take him seriously, too. I'm like, at least for me, I thought it was like, you know, kind of a big game because it's, like you mentioned before, we kind of had like an easy schedule along the way. And this was like one of the more, like, you know, better teams that we were facing.
Right.
And the game also had playoff implications. And the other Saturday game got moved. And I feel like anytime there's one day where there's one game, like primetime games, especially like Monday night or Thursday night, this was the Saturday night game. So, you know, it was definitely a lot bigger. And not to get too off topic, but Taylor really showed up in that game, you know, the big 60-yard run. So I feel like that also gave him more of kind of like an MVP type of chance.
Right. I completely agree with that one. At the end of the day, I feel like this is just one of those games you want to throw out. I put it in the same game as the Saints category.
Yeah, definitely.
There's going to be some weeks where everything goes your way. The football gods, the ball just bounces the way it needs to bounce. But you're also going to have some of those days where the ball doesn't bounce where it needs to bounce.
Absolutely.
Everything that could go wrong goes wrong at the end of the day. Anything else you want to add here, Josh?
Just it's a wake-up call to the Pats, you know what I mean? Face a pretty solid team. Can't take them as a joke, you know what I mean? You got to wake up.
Absolutely. It's going
on
to be
Buffalo.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens next week at Buffalo. Guys, we are done here. We will be back later this week to preview the Buffalo game. Like and subscribe as always. Thanks for checking this out, and we will see you guys later this week. Bye, everybody.
Take care.